Chapter 46-43. He shut his eyes hard, but, if I was given another chance, I would still make the same choice. Because, the days when he imprisoned her, it was his most beautiful memory. And that was also his way of protecting her. Yiqing Luo's pink lips pursed even tighter. Zhuwu Axan, you're still like this until now. She turned around and the gaze she shot at him was filled with disappointment. Zhuwu Axan was shrouded in a gloomy atmosphere. His jet black hair hung down as it floated in the wind. His perfect side profile didn't have much emotion, but it made one feel the pain in his heart. Don't follow me anymore. Yiqing Luo said calmly, I will not forgive you for what happened the last time. Saying that, she turned around and left. Behind her, Zhuwu Axan didn't follow her. Only, Yiqing Luo could feel that his burning gaze was following her closely. Until her figure disappeared around the corner. Yiqing Luo sighed deeply. She really didn't like to torment these complicated feelings. To her, if she liked someone, then they should be together. If the other party didn't like her, then she wouldn't disturb the other party. Pestering and using unyielding methods, with an unusual stubbornness. It would only make the other party feel even more disgusted, wouldn't it? Zhuwu Axan was much more stubborn than Gu Jingyu. Yiqing Luo rubbed her forehead. Her head was a little big. She'd better hurry back to the Ren residence. Ah Xian would definitely go crazy looking for her. Yiqing Luo's figure swiftly wandered in the deep alley. But, after walking for a distance, Yiqing Luo stopped in her tracks as she frowned slightly and looked behind her. Zhuwu Axan. She sensed that someone had been following her. Silence for a moment. Only then did a figure slowly walk out from the darkness. It was a slender figure. She was dressed in a long, flowing dress, which made her look conspicuous and eye-catching. Yiqing Luo was stunned as she looked at her in astonishment. It's you. The lady slowly walked towards Yiqing Luo. Her eyes met with Yiqing Luo's. Why are you? Yiqing Luo pursed her lips as she was slightly astonished. Group leader Su. The person in front of her was the group leader of the third mercenary group which she met in the Earth realm, and also Gu Zixi group leader, Su Qingbing. Why was she here? I want to talk to you about Wuxin. Su Qingbing's voice was calm, but the emotions in her eyes revealed her thoughts. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes fluttered and nodded after some time. All right. The two of them leaned against the wall. I'm not trying to persuade you to be with Wuxin. Su Qingbing tilted her head to look at her and smiled. I like Wuxin. She was very calm and naturally admitted her feelings for Zhu Wuxin. My obsession with him is the same as his obsession with you. So, I won't give up the chance to be with him. Su Qingbing withdrew her gaze and slowly raised her head to look at the narrow sky in the long alley. Then what do you want to discuss with me about him? Yiqing Luo admired this kind of lady. Love is open. Su Qingbing chuckled. If possible, I hope you can forgive him. Everything he has done is because he cares about you. He has never known what love is. Even when Ache and I are by his side, we have never felt any warmth from him. He totally doesn't know how to love, and doesn't know any feelings. Perhaps everything he has done has caused harm to you, but those, his original intention, were all for you. Su Qingbing lowered her head again. The reason why he imprisoned you the last time was actually because. Chapter 46-44. I know. Yiqing Luo turned her body sideways and placed her hand on her shoulder. Sure enough, she felt the woman's delicate body trembling slightly. In fact, after saying these words, Su Qingbing's heart felt even more uncomfortable. Anyone who faced their love rival and spoke up for their beloved, hoping that the love rival could forgive their beloved. Her heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. Leader Su, I know, he trapped me there. Because my profound jade heart secret was exposed. Yi Qing Luo patted her shoulder lightly, he wanted to protect me. You know. Su Qingbing pursed her lips tightly, her eyes looked at her without blinking, since you know, why. Knowing is one thing, but being able to accept it is another. Yi Qing Luo let go of her shoulder and leaned against the wall again, raising her head to look at the sky. This matter concerns me, he should tell me everything, and I. Whether to accept his arrangement, is my decision. Do you know why I like Xian? She tilted her head and looked at Su Qingbing. Su Qingbing's pupils contracted slightly. Why? She was also very curious. Why would a free and unrestrained woman like Yi Qing Luo choose a man like the Overlord? Based on Yi Qing Luo's character, she was definitely not the kind of person who would be together with the Overlord because of his status. Even if they didn't meet many times. But Su Qingbing could see it. The relationship between Yi Qing Luo and the Overlord. No one could step in. That kind of sincerity made one envious. Yi Qing Luo lightly hooked her lips, because Xian understands. Everything is based on my wishes. When mentioning Dmo Xian, Yi Qing Luo's expression was obviously much gentler. Her pink lips lightly hooked, her eyes filled with a faint smile. Whatever I want to do, Xian will support me unconditionally. As long as I want, he will definitely agree. I want to grow, so he suppressed his worry for me and let me fight alone. I want to become stronger, so he used his own way to help me. But never interfered in any of my matters. My decision, no matter how unbelievable, he will accompany me and complete it with me. When Yi Qing Luo said this, she paused slightly. The smile and gentleness on his face became even more pronounced. Xian is not the kind of person who cares about other people's feelings, nor is he the kind of person who will compromise. Yi Qing Luo smiled sweetly as she looked at Su Qingbing. Actually, the previous Xian and Zhu Wu Axan should be considered as the same kind of person. But Xian is willing to change for me and compromise for me. Su Qingbing stared at her blankly. Some kind of emotion was surging in his eyes. But Zhu Wuxin is different. Yi Qing Luo smiled as she opened her mouth. He's too stubborn, too stubborn. Towards me, is it because of his past possessiveness or because he really loves me? I'm afraid even he himself isn't sure, right? Su Qingbing pursed her lips and looked at her firmly. No. He loves you, Wuxin, he absolutely loves you. Yi Qing Luo smiled. No matter if it's love or possessiveness, to me, it's too heavy. Zhu Wuxin has never cared about my wishes. He only uses his own thoughts to impose on me, deciding everything about me. To him, he probably only wants a canary which he can control in his palm. A canary who will only follow by his side, who only has him in her eyes and heart. End of this chapter. Chapter 46-45. Su Qingbing was speechless. What Yi Qing Luo said was indeed so. Zhu Wu Axan was a stubborn and overbearing person. Whatever he had his eyes on, must belong to him. Whatever he wanted, must belong to him. This kind of possessiveness and overbearingness made one suffocated. After some time, Su Qingbing finally found a chance as she spoke out in a hoarse voice. But, if you don't give him a chance, how do you know that he isn't willing to change for you? If you are able to forgive Wu Axan, he will definitely be willing to change for you. Su Qingbing thought of this period of time. Zhu Wu Axan had completely changed into a different person because of Yi Qing Luo. She had never seen Zhu Wu Axan who lost control. But as long as it concerned Yi Qing Luo, Zhu Wu Axan seemed to have changed into another person. So, it wasn't that Zhu Wu Axan wasn't willing to change. But Yi Qing Luo didn't give him that chance. Because I don't like him. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled as she continued, because I love Xian, so I will not give Zhu Wuxian any chance. Su Qingbing was speechless once again. Since you like Zhu Wuxian so much, then work hard and walk into his heart, and not here. To convince me to accept Zhu Wuxian. Yi Qing Luo smiled at her, all of you don't need to follow me anymore. This is a matter between me and the Palace of Darkness. Since Zhu Wuxian had worked together with the Palace of Darkness, then don't interfere in this matter. I'm not asking you to accept him. At this moment, Su Qingbing's expression was completely different from the leader who killed decisively and cleanly in front of the bloody mercenaries' members. Her face was filled with anxiety. Anxious to convince Yi Qing Luo. I'm hoping that you can forgive him for what he had done to you previously. Su Qingbing took a step back and bowed to her. Yi Qing Luo, since you already know the real reason why Wuxian did what he did, can you please forgive him on account that he did it because he cared about you. That's why he did the wrong thing. Yi Qing Luo didn't reply. Su Qingbing was feeling apprehensive. Ever since you left, Wuxian he seemed to have changed into another person. The him now really isn't like him. I can tell that he has been wanting to apologize to you. The lady's voice was very soft. It sounded like a plea. Yi Qing Luo's expression didn't change and her tone was indifferent. Leader Su, there's no need to say any more. With that, she turned around and walked away. Su Qingbing wanted to stop her. But when he saw the girl's back without hesitation, he felt a chill run down his spine. He swallowed the words that were on the tip of his tongue. She had read countless people and naturally could tell Yi Qing Luo's character. Since Yi Qing Luo had already decided on something, no matter how she persuaded her, it would be of no use. Yi Qing Luo would never forgive Zhu Wuxian. That was unforgivable. What should she think of now to persuade Zhu Wuxin? Su Qingbing faintly sighed, turned around and walked in the direction of Zhu Wuxin. As soon as he turned around, he saw a figure dressed in a fiery robe standing in the shadows. The man leaned against the wall. He was shrouded in a layer of shadow. It seemed to be lingering with deep sorrow and loss. Su Qingbing's lips moved. Wuxian, when did Zhu Wuxin stand there? How much did he actually listen to? The moment she opened her mouth, the man who was leaning against the wall suddenly swayed. As though he had lost his supporting strength, he suddenly fell limply onto the ground. Su Qingbing rushed over anxiously and immediately supported Zhu Wuxin. Wuxian, are you all right? Chapter 46-46. Zhu Wuxian lowered his head, not saying a single word. As though he had sealed himself in his own world. Su Qingbing squatted beside him, her slender fingers clasped tightly onto his arm. How much, did you hear? Zhu Wuxian had a reaction. His thick eyelashes trembled slightly. His cold gaze fell onto her, all of it. Su Qingbing was stunned by that cold gaze for a moment, as the hand which was holding onto his arm tightened. Then you. She knows I'm beside her. Zhu Wuxian seemed as though he hadn't heard Su Qingbing's words, as he muttered to himself. That pair of icy cold eyes looked ahead without any focus. Right from the start. She knew I was beside her. Her words were intentionally said for me to hear. The man's voice was very low, every word and sentence, low and flustered. Su Qingbing didn't know how to comfort him. Or perhaps the current Zhu Wuxian totally couldn't hear a single word. Yi Qing Luo, who had left without any hesitation, stopped at the corner. She stood at the corner, taking a look at Zhu Wuxian and Su Qingbing's direction. Seeing Zhu Wuxian sitting on the ground, not knowing what he was thinking, Yi Qing Luo sighed. But in the end, she left without turning back. She didn't know where Zhu Wuxian had brought her to. The surroundings were filled with buildings and long alleys. But the environment was unfamiliar. It didn't seem like she was in the old city. Yiqing Luo leapt onto a wall, taking in the surrounding terrain, into her eyes. Her gaze suddenly fixed on a certain place. That was an extremely luxurious and spacious mansion. What attracted Yiqing Luo's attention wasn't the luxurious degree of that mansion, but she saw a black-robed old lady squatting there in a courtyard. The old lady's body was encircled by an extremely dense profound yin qi. That was the qi which came from the Nether Palace. Towards this kind of yin qi, Yiqing Luo was the most sensitive. The profound yin qi on this old lady was on par with that grand elder. Someone from the Nether Palace. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes slightly, as she concealed her qi, as her figure moved swiftly. She stealthily approached the courtyard on the other side. There was no profound qi fluctuation in the surroundings. What was this old lady from the Palace of Darkness doing here? It was until they got nearer to the courtyard, when Yiqing Luo could faintly hear the complicated and strange words coming out from the old lady's mouth. Yiqing Luo couldn't understand. The old woman muttered to herself for a long time. Only then did he stop. Very soon, a handsome young man dressed in the uniform of the Palace of Darkness walked over with a wet soft cloth. He half-squatted beside the old woman and wiped her sweat. The man's voice was filled with flattery. "Venerable Wu, is your witchcraft a success?" As the man spoke, his body was almost pressed against the old woman's. The old woman moved her hand and pulled the man into her arms. "You want to know?" The old lady's voice was extremely ear-piercing and hoarse. Anyone who heard it couldn't help but feel their hair stand on end. The man had clearly been by the old woman's side for a long time. His words were filled with conforming to the old woman. "I just want to know if you can spend more time with me after the witch goo succeeds." The old woman laughed sinisterly. She lowered her head to that young man's mouth, as she fiercely spat a mouthful of saliva. "You only know how to please me. This thing has succeeded." The old woman pulled the man away from her arms and immediately stood up. Chapter 46-47. The old lady stood up. Yiqing Luo saw a huge basin placed in front of the old lady. That basin seemed to be made of silver. But on a closer look, it seemed to be made of other materials. Streaks of dark flowing light could be seen above it. And that basin was crawling with densely packed goo worms. The goo worms were black in color, and were overflowing with dense profound yin qi. The most shocking thing was that densely packed goo worms crawled all over the basin, but none of them crawled out of that basin. This batch of witchcraft is considered to be successful, but we need to find a few more people to test the effects of this witchcraft," the old lady said in a sharp voice. The young man's expression changed slightly, as he immediately stuck close to the old lady. "Then, shall I bring those people over for Old Witch to test the witchcraft?" The old lady touched his face. "Don't be so anxious, Grandma likes you so much, how would I bear to use you to test the witchcraft?" The young man gave a flattering smile. But in his eyes, there was an unconcealable fear. The old lady let go of him, as she waved her hand. Go, bring them out, and test the effect of my witchcraft." The young man immediately walked out of the courtyard. The conversation between the two. Yiqing Luo had heard everything. Her eyes sunk slightly, as her brows creased tightly. Old witch. Witchcraft. Could it be that this old lady was the person from the witchcraft aristocratic family invited by the Palace of Darkness? That was the person who poisoned Long Yunjian. She couldn't understand the string of words just now at all. She was refining witchcraft, right? This old lady, refining this batch of witchcraft, what was she trying to do for the Palace of Darkness? What motive did the Palace of Darkness have? After a while, The young man brought 5 young girls with him. The young ladies' eyes were filled with fear, as their mouths were gagged, as they struggled and whimpered. The old lady stretched out her hand, as she grabbed one of the young ladies. That young lady's eyes widened in fear. The old lady held on to the young lady's chin, as she pulled her in front of her. A twisted expression surfaced on her sinister face. What a young and beautiful young lady. This face is so glaring. She laughed sinisterly. Seeing the fear in the young lady's eyes, she laughed even more crazily. I don't know if you'll be able to keep your beautiful face after the witchcraft is cast. Jia. Jia jia jia. The old woman laughed sinisterly and picked up a goo worm from the basin. The goo worm quickly crawled into the little girl's body. In the blink of an eye, the little girl rolled off the old woman's hand and onto the ground. At a speed visible to the naked eye, his body was covered with layers of black spots. The little girl screamed miserably on the ground. Soon, the little girl's appearance had changed beyond recognition. Chapter 46-48. Those little goo worms were controlling the young lady's body. An extremely destructive power. It wasn't the young lady's power, but the power of those little goo worms. Yi Qing Luo's expression changed slightly. What was the secluded darkness palace trying to do by letting the people from the witchcraft family refine this kind of witchcraft? One witchcraft worm was able to control one person. This huge basin of witchcraft worm, didn't it mean to turn thousands of cultivators into monsters controlled by witchcraft worms? Yi Qing Luo stared at that young lady who was desperately letting out beastly cries of "aw, aw, aw." The entire courtyard was smashed into pieces by that young lady, collapsing in all sorts of ways. The young ladies who were tied up by the side were so frightened that they whimpered in fear. That young man looked at the young lady's destructive power as his brows were filled with smiles. Congratulations, Elder Wu, your witchcraft worm has finally succeeded. The old lady stared at that young lady who had lost control as she squinted her malicious eyes slightly. Suddenly her 5 fingers moved. That young lady instantly stopped her destructive actions. Her mouth was letting out a painful cry. Following that, she fell onto the ground in pain. The densely packed little goo worm started to wriggle wantonly in the young lady's body. Not long later, the young lady was left with a pile of ghastly white bones. At the same time, the densely packed little goo worms on the young lady's body also disappeared. The young ladies by the side widened their eyes as tears of terror flowed down. Looking at that pile of ghastly white bones, the young man's smile froze as he hurriedly softened his tone. Elder Wu, this is still not enough. Elder Wu slowly turned around as he looked at the witchcraft worm in the basin. The power is too weak and the duration is too short. It's useless. The young man's tone was slightly anxious. Elder Wu, this witchcraft worm's power is already very strong and it hasn't reached the last moment of control, so how can you be sure that the duration is not long enough? Elder Wu, you try again. Elder Wu's malicious eyes suddenly fixed onto that young man as his lips curled into a sneer. Why? You're very anxious. No. I'm not. The young man realized that he had lost his composure as he hurriedly put on a flattering smile. I'm just worried that Elder Wu will be tired. You've worked hard for such a long time, and if this batch doesn't work, you'll have to work hard for a long time. The young man's voice was extremely gentle, and there was a hint of coquettishness in it. Elder Wu's furrowed brows relaxed. All right, don't try to coax me. Bring these people away. I want to see what the problem is with this goo. The young man hesitantly looked at the big pot of witchcraft insects. In the end, she pursed her lips and dragged the little girls out of the courtyard. Venerable Wu returned to the side of the basin and extended his hand into the basin. Witchcraft goo immediately crawled all over Venerable Wu's hand. Venerable Wu frowned and sized up the witchcraft venom on his hands in confusion. He muttered to himself, where exactly is the problem? Why can't these witchcraft venomous insects control the human body? Controlling the human body. Yi Qing Luo heard old Wu's words and roughly understood what old Wu meant by the effect wasn't enough. Elder Wu wanted to use these witchcraft insects to completely control a person. To control it like a person. He was no different from his usual self. However, when the witchcraft goo entered the little girl's body, the little girl's entire state was totally like a wild beast. To be more accurate, old Wu's motive was to make use of the witchcraft insects to create puppets. Chapter 46-49. Previously. Didn't the Palace of Darkness use the forbidden curse to create a batch of undead puppets? Why did they still need the witchcraft family's witchcraft master to create puppets? If she didn't guess wrongly, that young man earlier should be the one who was placed beside Venerable Wu. His motive was to urge Venerable Wu to complete the witchcraft. From that young man's anxious look, he should be someone from the Palace of Darkness, urging them anxiously. Yi Qing Luo muttered to herself for a moment. Using the teleportation secret technique, he quietly disappeared from the courtyard. She followed the young man's trail. The young man dragged a few young ladies and threw them into the house in the neighboring courtyard. Just as she got nearer, Yi Qing Luo heard a lady's woo 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 sounds coming from the entire house. Apparently, these were the young ladies used to test the spell. After the young man threw the few of them into the house, he locked the door and quietly walked towards another corner. The man's expression was cautious, as though he was afraid that the old lady would see him. He kept a close eye on his back, in case anyone suddenly appeared. He reached that corner. The man knocked on the wall. Very quickly, a black-cloaked man from the Palace of Darkness appeared in front of the man. The man lowered his voice. Venerable Wu's witchcraft has failed and needs to be refined again. That black-cloaked man was slightly displeased. Need to delay again. His lordship is rather anxious. If it is delayed any longer, I'm afraid his lordship will be angry. The young man pursed his lips tightly, as his face was filled with fear towards his lordship. I know his lordship is anxious, but Venerable Wu's character, his lordship should know that if it is not to her satisfaction, she will refine it again and again. The black-cloaked man's tone changed, as he spoke in an unquestionable tone, no matter what, within 3 days, you must let me show you the results. The young man revealed a bitter expression, with Venerable Wu's character, how can we urge her? Don't you know how to please her? At most, we'll just convince her on the bed. The black-cloaked man sneered, as though he was disdainful. Following that, the cloak shook. Then it disappeared before the young man's eyes. The young man's expression was distressed, as he clenched his fists in anger and frustration, as he punched the wall hard. Until he calmed down the anger in his heart. Only then did the young man adjust the expression on his face and once again headed towards the Magus Elder's courtyard. Yi Qing Luo didn't follow up. The entire courtyard fell silent. Only then did she slowly appear and walk towards the room where the little girls were locked up. The room was filled with the sounds of women moaning and banging things. She glanced in the direction of the Venerable Wu and entered the house. There was not a single piece of furniture in the room, only a pile of young and beautiful women. After she entered the room, the women all looked at her in shock. When he found out that she wasn't tied up and there was nothing in her mouth, he felt a chill run down his spine. All of them wriggled their bodies and stared at her with widened eyes. It seemed to be asking for help. Yi Qing Luo made a hush sound at them and grabbed the nearest lady, speaking in a low voice, I can save you, but you must cooperate. All the women nodded vigorously. Yi Qing Luo's voice was deep as she said word by word, no matter how afraid you are, you'd better keep your mouths shut. If those people outside find out that you're trying to escape, you should be very clear about the consequences. Fear appeared in the eyes of the women as they nodded vigorously. Chapter 46:50. Yi Qing Luo removed the cloth from the lady's mouth. How did you get caught and brought here? Do you know the person who caught you? The lady's tears flowed down as she sobbed. We were caught, we don't know that man. What do you know? Yi Qing Luo couldn't hear the lady sobbing clearly. Don't waste time on meaningless crying. If you want to escape safely, then make the best use of your time. Don't waste time. Whoever knows the situation, speak up now. Yi Qing Luo's voice was filled with an indescribable majesty. It made all the ladies in the room so stunned that their sobbing became much softer. Until a lady whimpered as she moved towards Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo dropped the lady in her hands and walked towards that lady. She removed the cloth from the lady's mouth. What do you want to say? This lady was slightly different from the other ladies. The other ladies were crying till their eyes turned red. But this lady's eyelashes weren't wet at all. It wasn't fear in her eyes, but hatred. We are all experimental subjects. The lady gritted her teeth and said, the person outside is Elder Wu from the witchcraft family. Rather than saying she is from the witchcraft family, you might as well say she was abandoned by them. Yi Qing Luo roughly understood the lady's concise and comprehensive words. This lady's name was Wu Che. Yes, her surname was Wu and she was also from the witchcraft family. But she was different from Elder Wu. Venerable Magus had once been chased out of the witchcraft family by the patriarch of the witchcraft family for refining a forbidden witchcraft goo. He was ordered to never step into the witchcraft family ever again. And Elder Wu, who was chased out of the witchcraft family, didn't feel that he was in the wrong. She joined the Nether Palace and used witchcraft to help the Nether Palace to do many harmful things. Hence, Wu Che, the daughter of the witchcraft family's leader, left the witchcraft family to help them clean up the mess. But unexpectedly, she was caught by Elder Wu. She was the first one who was caught in the room. Elder Wu and that young man had no intention to let her off. When the both of them were conversing, they had never avoided her. So Wu Che found out from their conversation. The Palace of Gloomy Darkness needed the shaman elder to refine a batch of puppets that could be controlled. Furthermore, they had to be extremely strong and destructive. Therefore, Elder Wu used witchcraft and started to refine the forbidden witchcraft. After the refinement, he needed a group of people to test the goo. Thus, young and beautiful girls were captured and used as goo test subjects. After listening to Wu Che's explanation, Yi Qing Luo frowned slightly. Since you're all test subjects, why are you still alive? Wu Che was the first person to be captured and brought into the room, but he was still alive. Wu Che shook his head. I don't know either. Perhaps I still have some value that can be used. Finishing her words, her hands clenched into fists as she looked at Yi Qing Luo with eyes filled with hope. Can you save everyone? As long as everyone leaves this place safely, I represent the witchcraft family to thank you for your life-saving grace. The entire room of ladies, upon hearing this sentence, were all touched and filled with hope as they looked at Yi Qing Luo, crying out, Woo woo. Yi Qing Luo looked around the room. There were about 30 or so women. If he wanted to save them all, it might be a little difficult. Everyone is a cultivator, so the chances of us escaping together is very high. Wu Che seemed to have seen through Yi Qing Luo's thoughts. I still have quite a number of witchcraft on me. If Elder Wu and the rest want to stop us, I can deal with him. Chapter 46:51. Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips slightly as her long and narrow eyes seemed to be rippling with a faint glow. She didn't make a sound. But the ladies by the side were all panicking. One by one, they looked at Yi Qing Luo pleadingly, anxiously trying to grab onto this last life-saving straw. Yi Qing Luo remained silent for a moment as her breathing paused slightly. I can save you, but after you leave this house, the ending is entirely up to you. She didn't feel that she could bring 30 over ladies and escape from this place. She could save them. But whether they could leave or not, they could only depend on their own ability and fate. After getting the ladies' agreement, Yiqing Luo bent over and untied all their ropes. The ladies forced themselves to calm down. They moved their hands and feet which had been tied for a long time, then looked at Yiqing Luo resolutely. "Thank you, miss, for saving our lives. If there's a chance, we will definitely repay you." Yiqing Luo waved her hand. "Whether you can leave safely is still a problem. Elder Wu is now refining witchcraft in the courtyard next door. The rest is up to you." Saying that, she quietly approached the door, preparing to leave. Wu Che followed behind her. "Miss, are you here to deal with Elder Wu? Why don't we join hands?" Yiqing Luo's gaze swept past her. "I'm just passing by, saving them on the way." Wu Che didn't expect her to reply in this way as he was slightly stunned. And this stunned Yiqing Luo had already walked out of the room. The other ladies had all fled the house. Whether those ladies could escape or not, this was not something Yiqing Luo could care about. Her vision looked towards Elder Wu's courtyard. Then she headed towards the courtyard. Wu Che followed up again, his face full of pleading. "Miss, since you're willing to save everyone, you must be a kind-hearted person. Please help me. I can't beat her." Yiqing Luo replied very straightforwardly, "If you're not Elder Wu's opponent, I can give you a piece of advice." Wu Che, "What?" "Go back to the witchcraft family and find someone with stronger ability to deal with her." Yiqing Luo's lips curled. "Can you move aside now?" Wu Che pursed her lips and a tearful expression appeared on her beautiful face. I don't want to go back to the witchcraft family. I want to prove that I'm about to inherit the witchcraft family not because my father is the leader of the witchcraft family, but because of my ability. So I must complete this mission. I want to capture Elder Wu and bring her back." Wu Che stubbornly raised her head, her beautiful eyes focused. "Miss, as long as you're willing to help me, it's equivalent to helping the entire witchcraft family. The witchcraft family will fulfill any request you have." The woman's tone was sincere. Yiqing Luo raised her brows slightly. Her smile deepened and she slowly shook her head. "I'm sorry, I really can't help you with this." She walked past Wu Che and walked away. Miss, I beg you." Wu Che's eyes reddened as he pounced towards Yiqing Luo. Just as Wu Che was about to touch Yiqing Luo, a dazzling red glow emitted from Yiqing Luo's body. Wu Che's entire body was struck by the red light and he fell to the ground. A voodoo goo worm about the size of a fingernail landed beside her feet. Wu Che's face turned pale and blood flowed out from the corner of her mouth. She frantically climbed up from the ground and stretched out her hand in an attempt to grab that witchcraft worm. But just as she moved, a ray of black light struck over. That witchcraft worm instantly split into pieces. Wu Che was so shocked that she shrank back and raised her head, staring at Yiqing Luo in astonishment. You, why did you suddenly attack me?" "Dear, this chapter has ended, I wish you a happy reading." Big smiley face. Chapter 46-52. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly as she looked down at her condescendingly. That pair of long and narrow eyes glowed. An eerie chill seeped out from it. Perhaps it was because Yiqing Luo's imposing manner was too overbearing. Or perhaps it was because Yiqing Luo's gaze was too terrifying. Wu Che felt as if an ice-cold venomous snake had crawled across her back, before slowly wrapping around her neck. That gaze was extremely horrifying. Wu Che's face turned slightly pale as her slender fingers clenched into a fist as she stared at her unblinkingly. Miss. If you look at me like that, I will be afraid. If you know that you're afraid, then don't come over to court death." Yiqing Luo looked at her indifferently without any expression on her face. Wu Che shrank her neck in fear as she felt an inexplicable chill in her heart. But when she saw that Yi Qing Luo was about to leave, she gritted her teeth as she spoke out timidly, "Miss, I only hope that you can help me. No other meaning." Yi Qing Luo's footsteps paused slightly, looking at the lady who was sprawled on the ground with a pale face and a timid look. She found it funny. "Do you think that everyone is an idiot?" Wu Che was stunned as her petite body trembled unconsciously. "You? What do you mean? Don't you feel tired after acting for so long?" Yi Qing Luo's gaze was calm as she looked at her. "Wu Che, don't think too highly of yourself." Wu Che sat on the ground as she lowered her head for a long time. After a moment of silence, she then slowly stood up from the ground. She raised her eyes to look at Yi Qing Luo. Her face was no longer filled with the pleading expression but was calm. Wu Che frowned as she stared at Yi Qing Luo as though she wanted to stare at her. "How did you know?" "Because you're stupid," Yi Qing Luo replied impolitely. Looking at the lady's expression changed. Yi Qing Luo's smile deepened as though she was ridiculing. "Your story is simply too lousy and full of loopholes. How can anyone believe it?" "What loopholes?" Wu Che pursed her lips as her expression turned ugly. "I'm not lying. Old Wu was indeed chased out by the witchcraft family." "Yes, this is indeed not a lie." Yi Qing Luo simply didn't intend to leave as she leaned her back against the door and crossed her arms in front of her chest. "But you've left out a point. You are not the daughter of some witchcraft family head. You're also someone who was chased out by the witchcraft family head." "No, I'm not." Wu Che's expression changed abruptly as he bellowed at Yi Qing Luo malevolently. "I am the clan leader's daughter. I am the future successor of the witchcraft family. It was those people from the witchcraft family who wanted to deprive me of my rights. For the sake of power, they framed me and Grandma. It's them, it's their fault." This angry roar. The surrounding girls who were quietly trying to escape were all startled. All of them stared blankly at Wu Che and Yi Qing Luo's direction. Yi Qing Luo's peripheral vision swept past those ladies. He took a step forward. He stood in front of Wu Che. That petite figure emitted an oppressive might that shocked people's hearts. Yi Qing Luo's gaze was like the frost that had condensed into ice. "I don't really care what your identity is." Yi Qing Luo met Wu Che's slightly crazed eyes without blinking as her pink lips curled into a faint smile. "Do you know where your biggest problem lies?" "Where?" Wu Che stared at her maliciously. "You said you're the first person to be locked in the room." Yi Qing Luo's slender fingers stroked her chin lightly. "Dear, this chapter has ended. I wish you a happy reading." Big smiley face. Chapter 46-53. Wu Che, what's wrong with that? After experiencing the death of so many test goose specimens, batch after batch of newcomers came in, you actually don't have the slightest bit of fear. Yi Qing Luo shook her head and sighed. "Don't use the excuse that you're the daughter of the head of the witchcraft clan and you're already used to witchcraft as an excuse. Because all the ladies here are not weak cultivators. These profound practitioners are so terrified that they're crying. As for you, you're too calm." Yi Qing Luo's gaze suddenly turned sharp. "Your composure, either you have the confidence to make a comeback, so you don't need to worry. Or, you are very clear that old Wu will not hurt you, so you have nothing to fear." That sharp gaze caused Wu Che's body to weaken. "However, after you escaped from that house, you directly asked for my help, hoping that I could help you capture old Wu." The smile on Yi Qing Luo's lips was like a blooming rose, revealing a seductive charm. "This means that you don't have the confidence to make a comeback. That is to say, the reason why you are not afraid is the latter." Wu Che was forced to stick close to the door. His breathing was short and rapid. "Ha, you're quite meticulous." Wu Che gritted her teeth and sneered. Yiqing Luo slowly withdrew her oppressive aura, and between her brows, a layer of laziness once again spread out. You still have a fatal loophole. She chuckled and waved the feather fan at Wu Chei's chest. Since Elder Wu knows that you are the daughter of the head of the witchcraft family, how could he not search you? How could they let you plant witchcraft on your body? Wu Chei had said, I still have a lot of witchcraft goo on me that I can deal with Elder Wu. She probably only felt that there was something wrong with Wu Chei. He would not associate Wu Chei with Venerable Wu. Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose. You and old Wu are originally together, right? You disguised yourself as a captured victim just to keep an eye on those girls, in case someone like me appears and rescues them, right? Wu Chei leaned against the wall bit by bit and stood up straight. She smiled and said, You're very smart. Yiqing Luo chuckled, You're flattering me. Wu Chei's smile became a little more evil. However, you are too confident. Do you think that I left you here just to listen to your nonsense? Yiqing Luo raised her brows. There wasn't a hint of panic on her face, but instead she laughed. Then, why do you think I'm here, talking nonsense with you? Wu Chei's complacent smile froze at the corners of his mouth. She seemed to understand something, and her expression suddenly changed. Fiercely pushing Yiqing Luo away, he looked around. There was no sign of a woman in the surroundings. Not a single one of the 30 or so young girls who had been captured had escaped. You! Wu Chei pointed at Yiqing Luo furiously. It was her. She had deliberately attracted her attention. Chapter 46-54. Her fluttering red dress, under the surging profound wave, was like a dancing flame, blossoming with dazzling sparks. Her jet-black long hair swayed with the wind. And in front of Wu Chei, a stooped figure appeared. A black cloak covered that small figure. On the other side, stood that young man from secluded palace. Grandma. Wu Chei lowered his head, as he pursed his lips in guilt. I'm sorry, Grandma, I let them escape. Elder Wu stretched out his hand, as he patted Wu Chei's head. Chei, don't worry, those test subjects will not be able to escape. Her tone was very certain. After that, when he looked at Yiqing Luo, his sinister eyes were filled with ridicule. Young lady, you are really daring, single-handedly, daring to come to my turf to snatch people. That gaze was like a poisonous snake. It opened its scarlet-red mouth, as though in the next moment, it would bite her neck. When she was face to face with Elder Wu, Yiqing Luo felt an enormous pressure from Elder Wu. Yiqing Luo's heart trembled fiercely. But on the surface, she maintained her calm, as her red lips curled slightly, smiling indifferently. Who told you that I am alone? When Elder Wu heard that, his gaze swept across the surroundings. Then he looked at the young man. The young man shook his head. There is no one else in the courtyard. Elder Wu then shifted his gaze back to Yiqing Luo. Young lady, this kind of lie, it will be seen through. If you are not alone, then how many people are there? Yiqing Luo took a look behind her. I have so many people here, can't you see? Would I be so silly to come here alone to act like a hero? Elder Wu's expression changed slightly, as his sinister gaze stared coldly at Yiqing Luo. Young lady, don't play tricks. Her black cloak suddenly fluttered. A thick profound yin qi suddenly attacked Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo leaped, as the feather fan on her fingertips rotated, as a torrent surged out. Following that, her figure retreated 2 steps. Bam! 2 profound waves collided in midair. It shook the surrounding buildings, as it rumbled. The profound waves brushed past, creating intense sparks. At the moment when it exploded, Yiqing Luo was already standing at a place outside the attack range. Venerable Wu's expression changed slightly. He looked up at the young girl on the wall and was secretly surprised. This girl, his strength was actually not weak. It was no wonder that would suffer a loss at her hands. Venerable Wu glanced sideways at the young man beside him. The man understood and pounced towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly as the feather fan in her hands shot out profound rays. Boundless profound light flashed across her fingertips. The young man's ability wasn't weak, but he totally couldn't touch Yiqing Luo at all. Elder Wu shielded Wu Che behind him and glanced sideways at her. When did that woman come over? Grandma, she is. Wu Che stared at the young lady in red, his lips trembled as he said word by word, she is the one whom Lord mentioned. Yiqing Luo. She was dressed in red and had jet black hair. She was devastatingly beautiful. A red fan, twirling at the tip of one's finger, could defeat a magnificent army. No wonder, that girl could see through her lies at a glance. No wonder, that young girl, even though she knew that Ji Yunshu wanted her to stay, she still stayed fearlessly. Because that young girl was Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo, whom even Lord was unable to gain any advantage over. Elder Wu frowned as he raised his head to look at the young girl who had already suppressed the young man. She is Yiqing Luo. Chapter 46-55. Wu Che held Elder Wu's hand tightly. Grandma, we must be careful. She has people from the witchcraft family around her. Earlier I wanted to take the opportunity to poison her, but she actually destroyed my witchcraft worm. Generally speaking, the witchcraft worm that they refined was indestructible. How could it be destroyed so easily? But earlier, Yiqing Luo only used her feather fan and tapped it lightly. Her witchcraft worm had completely exploded. Elder Wu's brows sunk slightly as if he thought of something and said to Wu Che, go to the courtyard where Grandma refined the witchcraft worm and bring that pot over. Wu Che was stunned, but Grandma, the test subject has already run away. Elder Wu's gaze fell onto the young man who had been kicked to the ground by Yiqing Luo as he smiled sinisterly. Isn't there another one over there? Isn't he Grandma's boy toy? Wu Che thought that his grandma was very fond of that man. He had not expected that. Grandma was actually willing to use him as a test subject. Elder Wu caressed Wu Che's face nonchalantly. He's just a lackey sent by the secluded palace to monitor us. If he dies, someone else will take over. Wu Che nodded and headed towards the courtyard. After sending the young man flying with a kick, Yiqing Luo's gaze fell onto Wu Che. The direction that Wu Che was heading towards was the direction where Elder Wu refined the witchcraft worm. Just one look and Yiqing Luo already knew Elder Wu's plan. She scoffed lightly as she slowly landed on the ground. Her charming eyes stared at Elder Wu, trying to use your witchcraft worm to deal with me. Are you sure that your semi-finished product will succeed? Young lady, I know you are related to the Miaogu family. But in terms of witchcraft poison, the Miaogu family is definitely not as good as the witchcraft family. When Elder Wu mentioned this sentence, his head subconsciously raised slightly. This also showed her confidence in witchcraft worm. Yiqing Luo's fingers lightly tapped on her fingertips as she replied indifferently, but you are merely someone who was chased out by the witchcraft family, so you are no longer one of them. What happens between the witchcraft family and the Miaogu family has nothing to do with you. These words caused Elder Wu's sinister eyes to overflow with an eerie chill. Little girl, you're still too inexperienced to provoke me. Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose as she looked at old Wu's sinister face under his cloak, as a meaningful look flashed past her eyes. He then probed, does the witchcraft family know that you are working for the Palace of Darkness? Or, the witchcraft family kicked you out because you worked for the Palace of Darkness? The person behind the scenes of the Dark Shadow Palace was best at passing down forbidden techniques to the people he wanted to use to achieve their own goals. As for this sorcerer elder, he had once used forbidden sorcery to refine sorcery. Could there be any connection between them? Little girl, are you trying to trick me? Even if I tell you, what can you do? Venerable Wu laughed coldly, as if he was mocking her with disdain. Venerable Wu was rather magnanimous as he said straightforwardly, yes, the heart-devouring goo in your brother Renlong's body was planted by me. Other than me, no one can remove the goo in his body. Yi Qing Luo's pupils suddenly constricted. Her petite body also tensed up. She wanted to find out the problem regarding Long Yun Zhan from old Wu's mouth. The goo in Zhan's body. It was planted by old Wu. Initially when Miao Ji helped her to find out news regarding the heart-devouring goo, she had told her, "Dear, this chapter has ended, I wish you a happy reading." Big smiley face. Chapter 46-56. If she wanted to detoxify the heart-devouring goo on Zhan. To detoxify the goo, she needed the person who planted it. Which meant she must let Elder Wu help Zhan to detoxify the goo. What Elder Wu said wasn't wrong. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as her long and narrow eyes swept up a storm. Why do you want to do this? The young lady's voice was strangely icy cold. Elder Wu smirked sinisterly. Who can reject his lord's request? Elder Wu paused for a moment as his gaze towards Yi Qing Luo was filled with contempt and ridicule. Young lady, don't think too highly of yourself. In the end, the reason why the people around you are in this state is all because of you. His lord's target is you, so. Long Yun Zhan was planted with the heart-devouring goo and had his memories wiped. Everything was all because of you. If it wasn't for you, how could Long Yun Zhan possibly experience all these painful things? Elder Wu kept on laughing sinisterly. Every single word that came out of his mouth was like a sharp silver needle, piercing into Yi Qing Luo's heart. I remember that human dragon. Back then when I planted the goo on him, he was still a little human dragon and had always been by his lord's side. Later on, that little human dragon suddenly disappeared. Even the heart-devouring goo which I planted on him could not sense it. I thought that little human dragon had offended his lord and was killed by his lord. I'd not expected. His lord had wiped away his memories and threw him into the lower realm, Nirvana. To let a little human dragon, Nirvana, with a brand new identity, to grow until today. Do you know what's the most painful thing? After old Wu asked this question, he looked mockingly at Yi Qing Luo whose expression had changed. The sinister smile on his sinister face became even more obvious. The most painful thing is, Long Yun Zhan remembers everything that you had experienced in the past. Remembers the feelings between you. But he had to pick up his weapon and face you. Yi Qing Luo's petite figure shook violently as she took a step back. The expression on her face was deathly pale. Her slender fingers clenched tightly into a fist. She wanted to suppress the emotions that were raging in her chest. However, she couldn't control herself at all. He had always been proud of his ability to control his emotions, but at this moment, he was completely controlled by his emotions. He had to admit it. Every word that Venerable Wu had said pierced into the point that she was concerned about in the depths of her heart. Old Wu looked at Yi Qing Luo's expression as he laughed sarcastically. I heard from Lord that you value friendship the most, right? So, shouldn't you obediently let him kill you in order for your brother to complete his mission? As she said that, she raised her withered black hand and touched her half-sunken chin. Or should I say, you killed that little dragon. This way, it can be considered as freeing him, and freeing yourself. Bang! The moment the old Wu's voice fell, the girl raised her glowing flame fan, and the sharp edge of the wall suddenly exploded. Ripples appeared in the air. The attack was powerful and domineering. The Venerable Wu arched his body and leaped up like a bat. The wave brushed past Venerable Wu and landed on the ground. A huge black hole was blasted open. "You, shut up." The young lady's voice was hoarse, revealing endless viciousness. She stood in the air as her red dress fluttered in the wind. Her slender fair hand held the glowing flame fan as she pointed it at old Wu. "I will not give up on my brother. And I will not give up on myself." This book came from Chapter 4657. No matter what Ajahn chooses, I will not hurt him and I will not let him hurt any of my brothers. He is my brother, I understand him more than any of you. If he really made a move and hurt anyone in the world group, that would be the real pain for him. No matter what you want to use Ajahn for, I will not let you get what you want. Yiqing Luo's eyes glowed with determination. Every single word was from the bottom of her heart. Elder Wu listened to Yiqing Luo's words. He went into a blank for a moment before he sneered, "A young lady is indeed a young lady, still believing in the brotherhood." Her eyes and brows seemed to be filled with a large expanse of darkness. A sinister aura spread out in her eyes. Wu Che had already moved that basin over. Elder Wu snatched the basin and stretched out his hand to grab a handful of it. Following that, the black profound Yin Qi encircled the witchcraft worm and led it directly onto the young man who had been kicked onto the ground by Yiqing Luo. The man's eyes widened as he looked at Elder Wu in terror, his eyes filled with disbelief. After the witchcraft worm entered his body, the young man cried out miserably as he stretched out his hand towards Elder Wu, pleading for help. But Elder Wu didn't show any signs of reluctance or pity. Instead, it was a heartless coldness. Very quickly, the man was like the first young lady who tested the worm, as his entire body turned black. That was one after another witchcraft worm as it started to spread out in his body. "Ah! Ah! Ah!" The young man's mouth started to emit a beastly howl. His voice was hysterical, as though he was a trapped beast. His body started to climb up from the ground bit by bit. He was as stiff as a mummy. Just like the young lady earlier, both his hands pounded the ground hard, as though he was venting something. This scene caused Wu Che to shrink back behind Elder Wu. Elder Wu patted Wu Che's back lightly as his lips curled into a sinister sneer. "Young lady, let me show you the power of witchcraft worms." She gave the order. That mummy-like man swiftly pounced towards Yiqing Luo. His jet-black body was filled with tiny witchcraft worms. The man's attacks were disorganized, but they were extremely destructive. They exchanged blows. The feeling he gave Yiqing Luo was a wild beast that had escaped its restraints was attacking its prey. The man seemed to have gone mad. After a dozen moves, Yiqing Luo had completely confirmed this matter. The man didn't even touch the corner of her clothes. The entire courtyard was smashed into smithereens. His destructive power was frighteningly strong. Yiqing Luo retreated to the side of the roof which was still intact, as she squinted her eyes, searching for the fatal weakness. Elder Wu raised his head and looked at her. His face was filled with a sinister smile. "Little girl, you are so loyal. I really want to try. If I put these witchcraft insects on your brothers, what will happen to you?" Elder Wu raised his head and looked at her. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed slightly as her 5 fingers gripped the glower flame fan tightly. "I will not give you this chance." "That's hard to say." Elder Wu's eyes lit up as if he had found an interesting toy. Then, 5 withered fingers stretched out from the cloak. She seemed to have touched something in the air. Then she pulled it with all her might. "Before this, why don't you try? Are you able to harden your heart to deal with these innocent women?" Looking at Elder Wu's actions, listening to Elder Wu's words. This book came from Chapter 4658. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly quivered, as though she had realized something. She quickly looked around. As expected, The next moment, numerous slender figures flew back from the outside of the wall. After that, one after another, they fell onto the ground. They were the young ladies who had escaped earlier. After falling onto the ground, some of the ladies swiftly climbed up from the ground. When they turned their heads and saw Elder Wu, their expressions suddenly changed. You. What's the matter? Why are we back? Haven't we already escaped? The ladies were extremely shocked as they climbed up from the ground, their gazes towards Elder Wu were filled with fear. As they were shocked. As they turned around and tried to escape. But the next moment, Elder Wu's cloak shook. They only felt something cold seeping into their bodies. And then, they lost all consciousness. Yiqing Luo, who was on the roof, stared downwards. Those young ladies had turned into a patch of pitch black, each of them were like dried corpses as they stood up shakily. Her pupils slowly widened. The anger beneath her eyes was burning fiercely. Her slender fingers clenched tightly. His smooth and round fingertips were deeply embedded into his flesh, leaving behind large patches of half-arc marks. Elder Wu looked at Yiqing Luo mockingly, using words bit by bit to hook Yiqing Luo's heart. Young lady. These ladies originally didn't need to die so early. But because of you, because of your own decision, because of your self-righteous self-confidence. Her voice, deliberately lowered slowly. Hoarse and sharp. But it had a bewitching feeling. Yiqing Luo. They all died because of you. It's you who caused their deaths, it's you who made them become like this. Elder Wu stuffed the basin back into Wu Chei's hands. After that, he raised both his hands. A thick profound yin qi lingered around her palms. Slowly turning into a thin line, it merged into those ladies' bodies. Then, his arms moved. Those ladies flew towards Yiqing Luo. Pitch black faces, stiff like dried corpses. All of them made Yiqing Luo's body stiffen slightly as she suddenly retreated backwards. Yiqing Luo, you're such a sentimental and righteous person, facing these people who had turned into such a state because of you. Are you able to be ruthless? Venerable Wu's tone was filled with mockery and ridicule. As though he was mocking Yiqing Luo, would she not dare to retaliate because of the so-called friendship? Facing those women, they attacked like wild beasts. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased tightly as she speedily evaded. The glowing flame fan at his fingertips swept up a powerful current. The dazzling profound waves were like streaks of red light that drew gorgeous arcs as she circulated them. Her hand moved forward. The devouring flame fan flew out from his palm. It formed a whirlwind in midair. The red arc also quickly swam among the women. Quickly, they surrounded the women. Old Wu apparently didn't expect that Yiqing Luo would really make a move. However, he was stunned for a while. She laughed out loudly. The affectionate and loyal Yiqing Luo, in the end, is merely a greedy and cowardly person. Facing these grotesque subjects that became like this because of you, you actually have no remorse at all. Ha ha ha. She laughed loudly, as though proving Yiqing Luo's cold-blooded heartlessness. She laughed extremely complacently. He could tell. Elder Wu had once suffered a setback because of the so-called affectionate and loyal people. Chapter 46-59. The young lady's slender fingers closed the glower flame fan abruptly. The majestic dark force exploded with a loud bang. Those ladies who were entangled by the arc of light. They were instantly blown away by the profound wave and fell onto the ground. In just a moment, they turned into a pile of white bones. Her actions had no hesitation at all. There was not the slightest bit of emotion on that absolutely gorgeous face. After that, the young lady slowly shot her charming eyes towards Elder Wu. Her pink lips curled into a ridiculing arc. The young lady's clear voice clearly entered Elder Wu's ears. Your method, in my eyes, is too low level. Did you think that just based on a few words of yours, you can bewitch me? Her smile deepened, like a peach blossom, elegant and rippling. You seem to think too highly of me. I don't feel that I'm the one who caused their deaths. That overbearing aura pressed downwards. Elder Wu's expression sunk, as he couldn't believe that he had miscalculated. Don't quibble over your actions. Elder Wu gritted his teeth and roared, if it wasn't for your meddling and letting these ladies go, they would at least be able to live for a long period of time. Yi Qing Luo laughed lightly. They wanted to escape, so I merely lent them a hand. After they leave, their life and death will depend on their own luck. What has it got to do with me? She had saved them, so she had to arrange everything clearly. Helping them to leave that house was a favor. What happened next was their own life. What would happen in the end? It had nothing to do with her. Elder Wu had turned them into puppets controlled by the witchcraft worm. That was their fate. Endangering her life. She took action and killed them. It was merely survival of the fittest. There was nothing to be soft-hearted about. Her eyes glowed faintly as her lips curled into a smile. I'm afraid Elder Wu didn't hear the mastermind from secluded palace talking about me. I have never been a good person. Elder Wu apparently didn't expect his plan to fail. Instantly, he flew into a rage out of humiliation as he directed the other ladies and that young man to pounce towards Yi Qing Luo, while she grabbed a bunch of witchcraft worm in her hand as her black cloak moved. She was like a bat as she scurried into midair, taking the opportunity to attack Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo was already prepared for old witch's actions. He opened his glowing flame fan and slashed away the puppets controlled by the witchcraft goo. He then leaped into the air. Sogu reading URL. Chapter 4660. That's Granny underestimating the enemy. Elder Wu stared sinisterly at the person who had already disappeared. The expression on his face was treacherous and no one could tell what he was thinking about. Wu Che opened his mouth but on seeing Elder Wu's expression, he shut his mouth. Elder Wu's fingers tightened bit by bit as he clenched his teeth and sneered, next time, I will let her know the power of witchcraft. Yi Qing Luo's figure had just left that courtyard and landed on the ground. Her slender waist was hooked by a pair of strong arms and brought into an embrace. An elegant sandalwood fragrance entered her nostrils. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up as her arms encircled the man's neck behind her. You're here. Dmo Xian pinched the young lady's waist. Did you have fun? When did you find me? Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into an arc as she leaned forward and touched his thin lips lightly. Dmo Xian held the young lady tightly in his arms. It was when you were preaching to that old woman. The man's strength was a little strong. Yi Qing Luo could feel his displeasure right now. She used her head to bump against his chest as she beamed. Don't worry, I didn't talk too much with Zhu Wu Axane. You have his scent on you. The man's muffled voice floated down from the top of her head. Yi Qing Luo hugged his waist as her chin rested on his chest as she raised her head. You can't blame me for this. He suddenly appeared and abducted me away. Before I could even react, I was already brought here. Along the way, I will definitely be tainted with his scent. Saying that, her little body rubbed against the man's arms for a while. All right, now my body is filled with your scent. That tone was filled with the feeling of coaxing his own war pet. Dmo Xian suddenly locked her waist tightly, not allowing her to move. Stop rubbing. The man leaned against her neck as his hot breath spurted out. His voice was filled with a sexy low charm. Yi Qing Luo blinked as her long and narrow eyes overflowed with teasing. Are you sure you still want to hug me? Dmo Xian bit her ear. If you continue, I won't be courteous anymore. Yi Qing Luo giggled but still laid in his arms obediently. Until the man picked her up by the waist. Yi Qing Luo laid in his arms and pinched his face. It's done so quickly. Whether I'm fast or not, you don't know. Dmo Xian bit her finger. It was very light and ticklish. Yiqing Luo raised her head at him. Are you a dog? Keep biting me. Dmo Xian hugged her tightly and leapt up, steadily landing on little Nine's back. He still did not let go of her. He continued to hold her in his arms. As he lowered his head, his low and hoarse voice was transmitted into Yiqing Luo's ears. Just you wait. She gnashed her teeth and threatened in a low, charming voice. This made Yiqing Luo smile even more brightly. The two of them were laughing and fooling around. Little Nine sent them back to the old city. Qiao Jin and the others heaved a sigh of relief when they saw Yiqing Luo safe and sound. Yiqing Luo inquired about the situation earlier. That's about it. After she was kidnapped by Zhu Wuxin, Dmo Xian flew into a rage. The Grand Elder and Long Yunzhan quickly retreated. Dmo Xian followed Yiqing Luo's breathing and headed over. After the few of them settled those people from secluded palace and the Ren family's guards, they returned back to the Gu residence. The Gu residence was after all barbaric Blood-Bone King's turf. And there were Gu residence's secret guards stationed there. Even if Ren Jianying tried to attack the Gu residence several times, she was totally unable to do so. Yiqing Luo found a chair in the main hall to sit down and immediately waved to Miao Xian, come over for a moment. If the anti-theft chapter was unable to be refreshed automatically, she could try moving the book out of the bookshelf and then add it again and it would be refreshed. Moi. This chapter ends viewing starting episode Zue new chapter section please arrive Tang Ku shop, mobile address. Chapter 4661. Miao Xianxian sat beside Ren Jianming. Hearing Yiqing Luo's voice, she immediately jumped up and jogged towards her. Miao Xuanxuan's identity had been exposed because of Ren Jianying. The people from the secluded palace naturally wouldn't let her off. Hence, Miao Xianxian followed Ren Jianming to the Gu residence. Yiqing Luo held Miao Xuanxuan's hand and looked at the young lady's bright eyes without blinking. She smiled. How much do you know about the witchcraft family? Miao Xianxian tilted her head and pondered for a while. Not much, I've heard about it from the elders in the family. Then have you heard of Elder Wu? Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk when she mentioned the two words, Elder Wu. Miao Xianxian nodded. I've heard of it. This Elder Wu is not only famous in the witchcraft family, even our Miao Gu family has heard of him. Tell me about it. Yiqing Luo rubbed the young lady's fluffy little head. Miao Xianxian seriously pondered over the news she had heard before. I heard. Elder Wu was the most outstanding witchcraft master in the witchcraft family and was highly regarded. Even the Miao Gu family had heard of her genius name. But later on, it seemed that something big happened to the witchcraft family. All the equipment used to refine witchcraft and those reared witchcraft were all burnt clean. Yiqing Luo roughly guessed the second half of the story. Then the witchcraft family found out that the person who set the fire was that outstanding witchcraft master. Elder Wu. Yes. Miao Xuanxuan's eyes lit up. Sister, how did you know? I guessed it. Yiqing Luo pulled Miao Xianxian to sit beside her. Continue. Miao Xianxian sat down obediently and continued. Sister, you are half right. The head of the witchcraft family didn't just discover Venerable Wu and set fire to the witchcraft family, she also discovered the reason why she did it. She intentionally lowered her voice and asked mysteriously, Sister, do you know the reason? Yiqing Luo raised her brows, because she wanted to use the forbidden witchcraft to refine witchcraft. Miao Xianxian immediately drooped her head. Sister, how do you know everything? I guessed it. Yiqing Luo rubbed her chin. No matter where it is, the so-called forbidden technique will always be called as forbidden technique, that is a forbidden technique. To make an aristocratic family, to chase the most outstanding person out of the family, it can only be. That person has violated the family's taboo. Miao Xuanxuan's head was still drooping, and her tone was not as cheerful as before. Yes. Elder Wu was chased out of the witchcraft family by the clan leader for refining the forbidden witchcraft spell. He ordered her to never return to the witchcraft family again, and, stripped of her surname. Stripped of his surname. Yiqing Luo's brows furrowed slightly. If his surname was stripped, then why was that person still called Old Wu? Yes, the patriarch of the witchcraft family was worried that Venerable Wu would use the forbidden witchcraft technique to do something outrageous after leaving the witchcraft family and affect the reputation of the witchcraft family. Thus, he forbade Venerable Wu from mentioning the witchcraft family after leaving. Miao Xianxian replied. Yiqing Luo seemed to have thought of something as she asked again, then, when Old Wu left the witchcraft family, did he bring along a young lady named Wu Che? Miao Xianxian thought for a while and shook her head. I've never heard of this name. Chapter 46-62. Yiqing Luo propped her chin as she pondered deeply for a moment. Qiao Jin looked at her. Why did you suddenly think of asking about witchcraft families? Yan Xiaoyi's eyes brightened slightly. Could it be that you already know who poisoned Captain? Previously, Mo Yuing had told everyone about Long Yunzhan. Everyone also knew that the goo poison in Long Yunzhan's body was not an ordinary goo poison, but a kind of goo that was refined using witchcraft. Yiqing Luo mentioned the witchcraft family at this moment. It was definitely related to Long Yunzhan. As expected, Yiqing Luo nodded her head slightly. However, her expression was extremely grim. I did see a goo master from the Dark Abyss Palace, but I can't be sure that she's the one who poisoned Zhan. Yiqing Luo's vision fell onto Miao Xianxian as she said word by word, that witchcraft master's name is called Old Wu. Miao Xianxian was stunned. The people surrounding them were also stunned. Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk slightly. Venerable Wu admitted everything too calmly. In addition to Miao Xuanxuan's words, she even started to suspect if the witch goo master called Venerable Wu was really Venerable Wu. Those who were chased out by the witchcraft aristocratic families could no longer use their former names, and they had to be stripped of the surname witchcraft. However, Elder Wu and Wu Che had openly adopted the surname Wu. It doesn't matter if that Elder Wu is the one who cast the voodoo spell on Captain. We have to find him sooner or later. Yan Xiaoyi pursed her lips and stood up suddenly. Aren't we rushing to the land domain? Let's go to the earth domain first and let Xianxian return to the Miaogu family to ask about what happened in the past. Ren Jianying of the Ren family was no longer around. On the surface, the entire heaven realm was in the hands of Ren Jianying, but in reality, it was in the hands of the Palace of Darkness. Ren Jianying wanting to attack the land domain was also the idea of the Palace of Darkness. Even if Ren Jianying wasn't there, the heaven realm's plan to attack the earth realm and invade the earth realm would not change. They still had to go to the earth realm to stop the Palace of Darkness plan. Yiqing Luo nodded her head as she raised her hand and rubbed Miao Xuanxuan's little head. Then let's return to the earth domain first. As for the Miao Gu family side, I need you to inquire about it. After all, the Miao Gu family was a force in the earth domain. There was still a huge gap between them and the witchcraft family. In addition, the witchcraft clan was also proficient in witchcraft. The Miaogu clan was no match for the witchcraft clan. It was better to go to the Miaogu clan first and figure out the true identity of that Magus elder before making a decision. Earth domain. Ren Jianming heard their conversation and his expression congealed slightly as he stood up. Great bone. Yiqing Luo, have you forgotten something? The gazes of Qiao Jin and the others swiftly turned towards Ren Jianming. Yiqing Luo waved her hand. We'll talk later. Ren Jianming pursed his lips, glanced at them, then turned around and left the main hall. When he reached the door, he stopped and said with his back facing her, I'll wait for you outside. Yiqing Luo stood up. Go and prepare first, we will set off for the Earth domain tomorrow. Huangfu Sheng and Gu Zixi had long wanted to visit everyone in the Earth domain. After exchanging greetings, they held hands and left. Yan Xiaoyi looked outside the door and looked at Yiqing Luo. He doesn't want to leave the heaven realm. Yiqing Luo's brows drooped slightly. It's not that he doesn't want to, but he can't. Chapter 46-63. Yan Xiaoyi clicked her tongue. Look at his nervous look, you'd better hurry over. Yiqing Luo bent down and planted a kiss on the man's lips. Then, she put a hand on his shoulder and straightened up. Wait for me. Di Zun, who had been soothed by the kiss, didn't get jealous again. Yiqing Luo stroked its fur and walked out of the main hall. Ren Jianming stood at the door with his back against it. He lowered his head and covered half of his face. However, it could be seen that he was not in a good mood. Yiqing Luo walked forward and said, I will not forget about saving old man Tsang. Then you're going to the Earth domain. Ren Jianming hurriedly followed behind him. If you go to the Earth domain, what will happen to Tsang Lao? It was until they walked out of the main hall's courtyard when Yiqing Luo stopped in her tracks and turned her head to look at him. The young girl's expression was very grave. Her usually enchanting and wanton charming eyes were currently as deep as a deep pool. Ren Jianming, you should have heard what I said last time very clearly. You should also understand that old man Tsang's poisoning isn't ordinary. He won't wake up just because you say so. Ren Jianming's body stiffened slightly. He clenched his fists tightly, and his handsome face darkened. I know, but you can't leave him alone. It's not that I don't care, but I don't have the ability to wake him up yet. Yiqing Luo's eyes became even more gloomy. It can be said that compared to you, I hope that old man Tsang can be well. But the prerequisite for old man Tsang to awaken is to gather all 5 Tsang Shui artifacts. She currently had the azure aqua light chain from Ren Jianming. There were only 4 of them. He was also missing a pair of earrings. Ren Jianming did not know what to say. After a long while, he finally lowered his head and pursed his lips. Then, when do you plan to return? Everything depends on whether the Earth realm is able to defend against the Nether Palace's attack. Yiqing Luo shook her head. The war between the realms cannot be explained in a few words. The Palace of Gloomy Darkness wanted to invade the land. That would depend on whether the heavenly axiom would allow such a thing that destroyed the balance of the realm to happen. Furthermore, although the Earth realm was below the heaven realm. Moreover, the difference in strength was huge. However, there were many capable people in the Earth domain. If the heaven realm wanted to fight this battle, it would not be that easy. I'll stay in the heavenly realm and take care of the old. Ren Jianming clenched his fists even tighter. But I hope that after you return, you will wholeheartedly help the old. I know. Yiqing Luo's words had just landed. Ren Jianming turned around and left. Yiqing Luo didn't open her mouth to call him. After remaining silent for a moment, she turned around, intending to return to the main hall to look for Dmo Xian. As soon as she put on her disguise, she crashed into the man's arms. Dmo Xian's hand circled around her waist. Are you done? Are you eavesdropping? He just left and you came out, such a coincidence? Yiqing Luo raised her head suspiciously as she squinted her eyes at him. Dmo Xian's expression did not change. Coincidence. As if I'd believe you, you're so bad. Yiqing Luo pouted her lips, not believing his nonsense. Dmo Xian's brows creased slightly as he looked at him. Rotten old man. Yiqing Luo. She just felt that it was convenient to say. She didn't want to argue with Dmo Xian on this sentence as she quickly took out the azure aqua light chain and raised it up, waving it in front of Dmo Xian. I've already obtained the 4th azure aqua god relic. You say the 5th god relic. Where is it? Dmo Xian's hand, which was clasped around her waist, suddenly tightened. Chapter 46-64. Yiqing Luo was shocked and let go of the azure aqua light chain. What's wrong? There's something on it. Dmo Xian released her waist, as his eyes congealed as he looked at the azure aqua light chain in his palm. As he frowned slightly, this azure aqua light chain has already been contaminated by the profound yin qi of the Nether Palace. Pollution. Yiqing Luo was stunned. No wonder she felt that there was something wrong with the flowing light on the azure water light chain. But he couldn't tell what was wrong. After all, it was her first time seeing the azure aqua light chain's true form. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as her long and narrow eyes squinted. No wonder. Back then it was too easy for me to get the azure aqua light chain. That grand elder was rather annoyed that Renjianying was a waste, but he had no intention to snatch it away. As it turned out, the azure aqua light chain was a bait from the start. Bait to get her hooked. First, he used the azure water light chain to lure her to the old city. It would be great if Renjianying could deal with her. If Renjianying fell into her hands, the azure aqua light chain would be taken away. In that case, he still had a backup plan. If she really formed a contract with the azure aqua light chain and fused with its power, the mysterious yin qi would also follow the power of her azure aqua light chain and enter her body. For her, the secluded darkness palace had really used all kinds of tricks. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched as her face revealed a cold smile. Fortunately, Dmo Xian was by her side. Otherwise, he might really fall for it. Yiqing Luo looked at Dmo Xian's tightly clenched palms and revealed a worried expression. Then, "This thing won't affect you." "It's nothing." Dmo Xian's expression sunk slightly. "I'll go remove the profound yin qi from this first. Wait for me." Yiqing Luo nodded. "I know you're very powerful, but don't force yourself. If you can't do it, we'll think of another way. There's no hurry to use the azure aqua light chain's power now." Dmo Xian went to settle the matter regarding the azure aqua light chain. Yiqing Luo asked Qi Qi to bring her to where Old Man Song's body was. Old Man Song lay on the ice bed with his eyes closed, as if he had fallen into a deep sleep. She slowly walked to the side of the ice bed and slowly sat down. Her slender, jade-like fingers lightly stroked the azure dew bracelet. She sighed softly and said, "Just one more artifact, and then you can become a real human, lass, don't worry." Old Song floated out from the azure dew bracelet. "Don't put all the responsibility on yourself. I promised you and Renjianying. Of course, I have to do it." Yiqing Luo laughed lightly. "But, after you become a real person, this azure dew bracelet, won't it have no protector?" You will protect the azure dew bracelet, won't you?" Old Man Song floated to Yiqing Luo's side and sat down. The illusory body was as light as smoke. Yiqing Luo tilted her head and took a look at him. Of course. Old Man Song leaned his incorporeal head against the ice bed. Looking at the two identical faces on and under the ice bed, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laugh. "Lass, are you tired?" The person beside him suddenly asked softly. There was a hint of melancholy in his tone. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes suddenly trembled, the expression on her face slightly stiffened. This was a relative like her elder. In other people's eyes, they could only see her bright and beautiful. But, only Old Man Song would care about whether she was tired or not. After a long while, her lips curled up and she laughed lightly. "Tired? How can I not be tired? But, I'm already used to it." Chapter 46-65. Ever since she came to this world, she seemed to be constantly on the move. There were all sorts of things that came one after another. But, so what about it? She had been reborn. In this strange world, she got to know everyone. She had the kinship, friendship and love that she didn't even dare to think about. What else was there to be discontented with? She had once heard of a saying. The greater the ability, the greater the responsibility. Her background destined her to be extraordinary. Her ability destined her to take on many things that she was unable to take on. But she had to take on it. This was her destiny. She couldn't avoid it. Lass. Old Man Sang's voice was rather light. Yiqing Luo closed her eyes, stretched out her hand and gently held the hand of the person on the ice bed, as she said gently, I will not let myself fall. Actually, what that old Wu said was very right. The people around her, all because of her, were schemed against by the secluded palace. And because of her, their lives were in danger so many times. If it wasn't because of her, Long Yunjian might not have such a fate. Everyone had the possibility to live peacefully and not be like this, wandering from place to place. But even if that was the case, so what about it? She had never regretted appearing in front of the brothers whom she knew. And would never regret becoming their brothers. Even if she had to do it all over again, she would still make the same choice. Because they were brothers. So, no matter how tired she was, she would do her best to protect everyone whom she cared about. She would not fall. You lass. Really silly. Old Man Sang looked at the young lady, unable to describe the feeling in his heart, to tell the truth, to let me become a real human, to leave you. I really can't bear to. He had been accompanying Yiqing Luo for a long period of time. He had witnessed all of Yiqing Luo's growth. He couldn't imagine what it would be like if he wasn't by Yiqing Luo's side. Yiqing Luo tilted her head to look at him, as her gaze was firm. After you become a real human, then you will be able to help me better, isn't it? At least by then, if I suffer any grievances, I can still throw myself into your arms and cry. You should be thankful that you don't make others cry. Old Man Sang's mouth was filled with disdain, but in his mind, he unconsciously followed Yiqing Luo's words and imagined that kind of scene. Indeed. I look forward to it. Old Man Sang sighed softly and used his spiritual body to rest on Yiqing Luo's shoulder. Although he could not feel it. But this action, Yiqing Luo understood what he was trying to express. Luo girl, you will definitely become someone stronger than Venerable Sovereign in the future. Old Man Sang looked at her solemnly. Yiqing Luo tilted her head and looked at the hand on her shoulder, stronger than Xian. I'm afraid that even if my mother was alive, she wouldn't be a match for Xian. Her family's Xian was simply a cheat code. It was too heaven-defying. Until now, she still did not know Xian's true strength. Stronger than Xian. I'm not rich, I'll never be rich in this lifetime. Old Man Sang simply smiled. After the matters in the land have been settled, I will follow that map and search for the tomb of the Divine Emperor with you. At the mention of the Tianshu map, Yiqing Luo's eyelashes drooped slightly. After a while, she nodded. All right. The Divine Emperor's tomb, she definitely had to search for it. After all, the Divine Emperor's tomb was her mother's tomb. And her mother had placed the map to the Divine Emperor's tomb on her. Chapter 46-66. This must be his mother's intention. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes drooped slightly, as her lips curled up slightly. The arc between her brows was like a rippling beauty. Don't worry about me. No matter what, I won't be fighting alone, right? The girl's voice was clear and calm. It was as if he was just saying something natural. Old Man Sang gazed deeply at her for a long time. In the end, his eyes rippled with emotion as he slowly nodded, yes. She would never fight alone. It didn't matter if he was in a spiritual body state. Or turn into a human. As an elder, he would stay by her side without any hesitation. The man and the spirit body looked at each other and smiled. He then leaned against the ice bed and closed his eyes, enjoying this rare moment of peace and tranquility. An hour later, this peace was broken by Ren Jianming, who walked in from outside. Ren Jianming seemed to be much more dejected. When he saw Yi Qing Luo, his expression was slightly stunned, as though he had not expected Yi Qing Luo to appear here. "Why are you here?" Ren Jianming took quick steps forward, took a look at Yi Qing Luo, and then looked at old man Tsang who was lying on the ice bed. Yi Qing Luo tilted her head. "I'm going to the earth boundary tomorrow, so I specially came over to bid farewell to him." Ren Jianming responded indifferently. He didn't know what kind of attitude he should use to face Yi Qing Luo, who went back on her words. But Yi Qing Luo didn't stay for too long. He gave Ren Jianming a few reminders and gave him some first aid pills. Then he left the place. Just as he reached the corner, Ren Jianming suddenly said, "I and old Song will wait for your return." This trip. Just how dangerous was the road ahead? No one knew. Perhaps he would die on the battlefield. That also meant that it was very likely that the old man would never be able to wake up. But he was unable to stop Yi Qing Luo from doing what she wanted to do. He couldn't stop it. So he could only choose to believe in Yi Qing Luo. He believed that she would definitely return safely. Yi Qing Luo's footsteps paused slightly as she glanced sideways. Her long and narrow eyes seemed to be condensing a vivid light. She raised her pink lips and said firmly, "Yes, I'll be back. Definitely." Night. Yi Qing Luo paced around the room with an anxious expression. Chi-Chi lay on her shoulder and stroked her back with her furry tail. Dmo Xian had yet to return. Yi Qing Luo believed in Dmo Xian's ability. However, in the face of the treacherous and cunning palace of Abyss Palace, all sorts of sinister tricks emerged one after another. She was very worried that the deep yin chi wasn't the only pit on the deep aqua light chain. At that time, Dmo Xian had dragged the azure aqua light chain away. She also hadn't clearly seen the situation on the azure water light chain. What if there was another trap waiting for him after he dealt with the mysterious yin chi? Chapter 46-67. Like. Very much. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were filled with a faint smile, that was a unique gentle smile towards Dmo Xian. Like how Chi-Chi likes master. Chi-Chi tilted her head. Yi Qing Luo smiled lightly, "Yes." Chi-Chi made a few soft sounds and rubbed her head against Yi Qing Luo's arms, then Chi-Chi will accompany Master to wait for Overlord Master. Just as she was saying that, a figure suddenly flashed outside the window. Yi Qing Luo's eyes lit up as she immediately got up and greeted him. But the air was not filled with a familiar smell. The joyous expression on her face faded away bit by bit. Bloodbone Barbaric King walked in, bringing along a cold aura of the night. Yi Qing Luo looked at his expressionless face and her heart thumped hard. "You. Why are you here?" Bloodbone Barbaric King walked slowly to the table and sat down. Following that, he placed something on the table. Under the flickering candlelight, a brilliant necklace, sparkling with a strange glow. Yi Qing Luo's body suddenly tensed up. Her eyes stared at the item on the table without blinking. "Where is he?" Yi Qing Luo didn't touch the necklace on the table but looked at Bloodbone Barbaric King with a sunken face. Bloodbone Barbaric King's fingertip touched that resounding necklace lightly. "He has something on." "What is it?" "He has time to send the azure aqua light chain to you but has no time to look for me." Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips, her voice was very dry. "Yes. That necklace. It was the azure aqua light chain that Dmo Xian took away." But Dmo Xian asked Bloodbone Barbaric King to send the azure aqua light chain back. Then, why didn't he come back? Bloodbone Barbaric King looked at her calmly. Don't let your imagination run wild, he's fine. If he's fine, why didn't he pass the Azure Aqua Light Chain to me personally? Is he injured because of the Azure Aqua Light Chain? Afraid that I'll be worried so he doesn't dare to come and see me? Yiqing Luo's pink lips were pursed tighter and tighter. Doesn't he know that under the situation where I don't know anything, I will only be more worried about him? Yiqing Luo took a deep breath and strode to the table, holding the Azure Aqua Light Chain in one hand. Bring me to him. This god knew, you would be like this. The Bloodbone Barbaric King was a little helpless. I've already said that I can't help him bring the things to you. You'll think too much, but he seems to have something very urgent, so he could only ask me to bring the things to you. What's the matter? Yiqing Luo clenched her fist. How would this god know what it is? The barbaric Bloodbone King didn't seem to care. I don't care about his matters. It's just that he asked me to pass this divine weapon that belonged to Feng Gu to you, so I helped him run this errand. Yiqing Luo lowered her head and looked at the brilliant light chain on her fingertips. She rushed out of the room and was about to chase after him. The Bloodbone Barbaric King immediately chased after her and stopped her. We still have to go to the Earth Domain tomorrow. Where are you going? I want to see Ah Xian. I can only be assured after I'm sure that he's all right. Yiqing Luo bit her lower lip as her charming eyes were filled with determination. Ah Xian, that idiot, always endured everything just to protect her. He always refused to tell her anything. He's really all right. The Bloodbone Barbaric King pressed his hands on her shoulders. You don't believe this god? Yiqing Luo didn't say a word. The Bloodbone Barbaric King said each word seriously. At least, when he passed this necklace to this god, he was all right. At that time he came in a hurry and passed the necklace to this god. He only said one sentence. To let you go to the Earth Domain first. He would come later and left in a hurry. This book came from Chapter 4668. That's right, at that time. I saw a disciple of the Imperial Palace waiting for him. The Bloodbone Barbaric Monarch added as if he had recalled something. Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk. A disciple of the Imperial Palace. Dmo Xian left in a hurry with the Imperial Palace's disciples? Did something happen to the Arch Palace? Otherwise, why would Dmo Xian not even have the chance to see her? Since the Overlord had asked you to believe in him, you should believe in him. Bloodbone Barbaric King looked at Yiqing Luo's ugly expression and comforted her. Yiqing Luo shook her head, her slender fingers, one by one, tightly gripped the Azure Aqua Light Chain in her hands. Her eyes were a little gloomy. I will be worried about him. He knows that you will be worried about him, but Qing Luo. You should be clear that your responsibility is not only because of your feelings, you are shouldering too many things. Barbaric Bloodbone King patted Yiqing Luo's shoulder lightly. If you don't need to go to the Earth Realm, this god believes that the Overlord will definitely bring you along to the Imperial Palace, to accompany him. But you must go to the Earth Realm, and you must go. Yiqing Luo's heart thumped hard. That was right. She had to go to the Earth Domain. It was her unavoidable responsibility. Actually, you don't have to worry. Barbaric Bloodbone King looked at Yiqing Luo indifferently. His strength is unfathomable. Even this god is unable to see through his true realm. After all, the Bloodbone Barbarian King was someone from the divine world. Even after being sealed for 10,000 years. His own strength was there. However, he still could not see through Dmo Xian's profound grade and strength. Even from Dmo Xian's body, they could not sense any profound chi fluctuations at all. Under such circumstances, there were only two possibilities. Firstly, Dmo Xian was an ordinary person without any profound energy. Secondly, Dmo Xian's strength was above him. With Dmo Xian's reputation, it was definitely not the first one. Then there was only the second possibility. Go and rest. We still have to go to the Earth domain tomorrow morning. The barbaric Blood King pressed her shoulder and pushed her back to her room. Yiqing Luo's footsteps walked back step by step. His heart was heavy and uncomfortable. Her Xian, no matter what decision she made, he would support her without hesitation and stand behind her unconditionally. Whenever she needed help, he was always ready to help. But she, even though he had come this far, he had grown to such an extent, she was still unable to help Dmo Xian. I heard the conversation between you and Chi-Chi just now. The barbaric Bloodbone King pressed her onto a chair and sat down beside her. You and Dizun are indeed very close. He paused and seemed to hesitate for a long time before asking, why did you choose to be with him? Regarding the matters of the outside world, the barbaric Bloodbone King did not understand. However, he had heard of His Majesty's name countless times during this period of time. He's always been good. Dizun was famous in the three realms, mysterious, powerful, and lofty. How could he fall in love with a little girl from an inferior world? No matter how devastatingly beautiful Yiqing Luo was. For people like Dizun, it wasn't like he hadn't seen any ladies who were more beautiful than Yiqing Luo. But the Overlord had chosen Yiqing Luo out of concern for Yiqing Luo. The barbaric Bloodbone King felt that it was necessary for him to clarify this matter. After all, such feelings, the disparity was too great, but they loved each other so much. He had no choice but to suspect the Overlord's real motive for Yiqing Luo, /html/book/43/43766/L. Chapter 4669. Perhaps it's because fate has decided it. Cell phone. Yiqing Luo lowered her eyes as she looked at the azure aqua light chain in her palm, which seemed to be tainted with a man's presence as her gaze gradually softened. From the first time I met him, we were already fated to be together. The first time they met. Then, he put his pair of mandarin duck rings on her hands. And because of that, he handed his entire life over to her. This was the fate that was fated. Bloodbone Barbaric King muttered the words, fated, softly. The expression on his face was a little bitter, as though he had recalled the scenes that year. Yiqing Luo didn't say another word. She looked at the azure aqua light chain for a long time. Then she slowly wore the azure aqua light chain around her neck. She shut her eyes as she suppressed the surging impulse in her heart. Now that things had come to this, she could only trust Dmo Xian. Trust that after he settled all the matters, he would go to the Earth realm to look for her. Her hand gently caressed the profound phoenix ring on her fingertips. As though through the profound phoenix ring, she was able to transmit her longing to him. I can tell that you really love him. Bloodbone Barbaric King gave a low chuckle. He said love and not like. Yiqing Luo smiled as she calmly nodded, yes, I love him. She raised her hand slightly and pressed her lips on the profound phoenix ring as her voice was gentle as she said word by word, in the past, I never believed in the so-called feelings in this world. But, after meeting him, I believe it. No one will be like him, accepting everything about me. And making his biggest concession and change for me. Obviously, a highly respected and secretive existence like Dmo Xian. But time and time again, he broke his own bottom line for her. Caring for her, caring for her. Even more so, he placed everyone whom she cared about in his heart. His possessiveness was very strong. He wished to monopolize her. But it was to make her happy. To be able to coexist peacefully with the world group whom she cared about. Everything about him revolved around her. That silly man, for her, had really sacrificed a lot. A lot. Bloodbone Barbaric King looked at Yiqing Luo's current expression. From her eyes, one could tell just how sincere her feelings towards Dmo Xian were. Such a gaze. He had seen it in Feng Ji's eyes before. However, he was not the only one who made Feng Ge look at him like that. Looking at the face that was almost similar to Feng Ji's. The barbaric Bloodbone King's eyes gradually became hazy. His thoughts seemed to fly back to that period of time in the past. Thinking of my mother again. Yiqing Luo tilted her head to look at Bloodbone Barbaric King as her lips curled into an arc. If Mother knew that you loved her so much, if she could do it all over again, back then she would definitely choose you. The barbaric Bloodbone King's eyes narrowed. A self-deprecating look appeared on his handsome face. He shook his head. She will only have familial love for me forever. Familial love will never become love. He knew Feng Ge too well. He would never make such a conjecture. Even if he had to do it all over again. Even without Ah Huang. There would be a second Ah Huang and a third Ah Huang. In short, it would never be him. Looking at the self-deprecating expression on the barbaric Bloodbone King's face. For a moment, Yiqing Luo didn't know how to console her. As for the relationship between his mother and the barbaric Bloodbone King, what she knew was only a superficial part of it. Don't look at this god with such a pitiful gaze. The emotions in the barbaric Bloodbone King's eyes had already regained its calmness as his lips curled slightly. This god already knew the ending, but I have never regretted my own choice. /HTML/book/43/43766/L Chapter 4670. Even if she doesn't love you? Yiqing Luo asked curiously. Yes, even if she doesn't love me. Bloodbone Barbaric King's tone was firm. I have hated her for thousands of years, but I have never regretted falling in love with her. That firm tone. That firm gaze. All of them were expressing his feelings. Yiqing Luo stretched her waist, the expression on her face was no longer tensed. All right, you have successfully comforted me, I will not let my imagination run wild anymore. She knew that when Bloodbone Barbaric King asked her about her feelings towards Dmo Xian, it wasn't just because of his suspicions towards Dmo Xian. After such a long time, Bloodbone Barbaric King could naturally tell the feelings between Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian. Other than doubting Dmo Xian's original intention, the most important thing was to unknowingly comfort her. Since she loved Dmo Xian so deeply, then she should believe in Dmo Xian. Believe that he would not bear to let her be upset. Believe that no matter what, he would take good care of himself. Then, he would return to her side safely. Bloodbone Barbaric King stood up. Have a good rest. Saying that, he left the room. Yiqing Luo hugged Chi and leaned against the bed for a while before she slowly closed her eyes and forced herself to rest. The next day, the group of people were ready to set off. Other than Ren Jianming, who stayed behind, everyone else headed towards the Earth realm. Yiqing Luo instructed Ren Jianming not to leave the hiding place no matter what. If the Heaven realm wasn't Ren Jianming's home ground, they would definitely dig 3 feet into the ground to catch Ren Jianming. After all, based on Ren Jianming's rebirth experience, how many times had she wanted to catch Ren Jianming? She had also said that Ren Jianming was a variable in the Heaven realm. The secluded palace would not allow any variable to exist. When the group saw that Yiqing Luo was alone and saw her exhausted look, apparently she didn't sleep well last night, they tactfully didn't mention Dmo Xian. Right, why haven't Master Gue Wu and Zhou Mo returned yet? Yiqing Luo looked at Xiao Jin and asked in puzzlement. It seemed that ever since the heaven realm, she hadn't seen Gue Wu and the rest. Even her cat had no idea where Zhou Mo had abducted it. With Master Gue Wu and Ghost Bandit around, there shouldn't be any problems, Xiao Jin replied. Indeed, those people were there. Her cat should be fine too. Yiqing Luo directly took out the sacred beast bead in the Gu residence and activated the passageway to the realm. In the earth domain, the flames of war continued unabated, and killing intent rose and fell. The sky was filled with blood and profound ripples, causing people to be overwhelmed with shock. The minute Yiqing Luo and the others reached the earth boundary, they were shocked by the scene in front of them so much that they almost couldn't regain their senses. The earth realm and the heaven realm had already started a war. Furthermore, from the looks of it, it was obvious that the earth domain was no longer a match for them. Were they trying to destroy the land or invade it? Gu Zixi and Huangfu Xing's faces turned livid. Their eyes clenched tightly into fists, and after exchanging glances with one another, they opened their mouths towards Yiqing Luo. Let's make a trip back to the treasures gathering trading hall first. And the Qiao family. An bloody mercenary group. Looking at the flames of war that filled the sky. The once glorious realm main city was now desolate and filled with ruins. Yiqing Luo looked at the few people behind her as she muttered to herself for some time. Then she opened her mouth to arrange, Jin Zi, Xiao Yi, the two of you first protect Xian back to the Miao Gu family and ask them clearly about the matter regarding Elder Wu. This might be related to the heart-devouring parasite in Zhan's body. This book came from Chapter 4671. Then what about you? Yan Xiaoyi pursed her lips. Where are you going alone? Yiqing Luo's expression was grave. Don't worry about me, I'll make a trip to the Hell Palace. The Earth Realm and Heaven Realm were fighting. The Hell Palace was a strange existence in the Earth Realm. She wondered if that bunch of lunatics from the Hell Palace would interfere in this war. Now the situation in the Earth Realm is not clear. If we split up, there's a possibility. Qiao Jin's face was filled with hesitation. He who had already reverted back to his original appearance, even if he was frowning, he still had a different kind of handsomeness. Yiqing Luo raised her hand to stop his words. I have a blink movement secret art. Even if the people from the secluded palace discover my existence, they will not be able to catch me. But you guys must be careful. The few of them exhorted one another for a while and went their separate ways. After sending Yan Xiaoyi and the other two off with her eyes, Yiqing Luo followed Dmo Xian's memory of bringing her to the Hell Palace and arrived at the Hell Palace. Compared to the outside world where the flames of war continued, the Hell Palace's side was not affected much. The pitch-black space was filled with a strange evil qi. Yiqing Luo headed towards the pitch-black space and walked for a long distance. Her mind was calculating the exact location of the Hell Palace's door, which appeared out of thin air the last time she was here. She had yet to get close. Suddenly, she heard a loud roar reverberating in the space. Who dares to barge into the Hell Palace? Are you here to create trouble? Or are you here to fight with us? Very good. It was a familiar formula. A familiar opening line. Yiqing Luo was completely sure now. This war between the Heaven Realm and Earth Realm. It had no influence on the Hell Palace. The Hell Palace's door opened. An old man rushed out. His body was still the familiar dirty mess, a head of messy hair scattered behind him, giving off a moldy smell. That man rushed to Yiqing Luo, raised the big machete in his hand and chopped downwards. Yiqing Luo. She moved her leg, lifted her leg, and kicked that person's body. A bam sound was heard. That man fell heavily onto the ground. F***K. Oh no, Help, the person who is causing trouble is too strong. The old man sprawled on the ground. Help Palace's lord, save me, save me. Yi Qing Luo. She didn't use any strength at all, okay? Wasn't her acting a little too much? Following the old man's sorrowful wails. After a while, hurried footsteps could be heard coming from the underworld palace. About 5 unkempt old men rushed out. Aren't those fools fighting with the heaven realm outside? Who would come to the underworld palace to cause trouble? The old man in the lead said impatiently. The 5 of them walked out. The old man who was howling on the ground immediately got up from the ground and scurried to the back of the 5 people. It's her. That's her. Coming to the underworld palace alone to cause trouble, he must be an expert. Yi Qing Luo, who was alone. Was this the reason why he was acting like a drama queen? In the darkness, the faces of both sides could not be seen clearly. The old man in the lead slowly walked towards Yi Qing Luo and was just about to open his mouth. He heard a familiar and clear voice, "Old Lai, long time no see." The old man in the lead immediately stiffened. His eyes widened in disbelief as he asked tentatively, "Madam." "Madam." The man in the lead was Old Lai. The minute he opened his mouth, Yi Qing Luo recognized his voice. Old Lai's sleeves moved and lit the candle on the rock wall. Under the dim light, the young girl's beautiful face was slowly reflected in the eyes of the few people present. This book came from Chapter 4672. The red-robed black-haired young lady was dazzling in this pitch-black space. Old Lai rushed to Yi Qing Luo. "Imperial Madam, is it really you? Why are you here?" He kicked away the few old men beside him. Quick, quick, please come in, come in." Yi Qing Luo didn't stand on ceremony with Old Lai. She followed behind Old Lai and entered the Hell Palace. In the Hell Palace, there was a treacherous and gloomy atmosphere. Only after a long distance did he light a candle. The dim light made it hard to see the ground clearly. Old Lai was obviously very excited. As he led the way, he kept talking about the current situation in the Earth domain. For example, ever since Yi Qing Luo left the Earth domain, Qiao family took over the treasure exchange house. But it was still under Pei Xing's name. For example, ever since Yi Qing Luo left the Earth domain, Qiao family passed the election and became without embroiling city lord. Another example was that not long later, the entire Earth domain would probably merge into 3 cities. And so on and so forth. Yi Qing Luo had been listening quietly. The few old men behind her were also quiet and didn't dare to interrupt Old Lai's words. Until Old Lai finally finished his words, he turned to look at Yi Qing Luo and asked curiously, "Imperial Madam, didn't you go to the Heaven Realm? Why are you back so soon? How is it? Is the Heaven Realm fun?" Looking at the old man's excited expression, Yi Qing Luo sighed softly, "Don't you know very well why I am back?" A light voice sounded faintly in the quiet passageway. It gave off a feeling of illusory nothingness. Old Lai's voice paused as he turned his head and walked in front. The flickering candlelight swayed, elongating his figure. Yi Qing Luo followed behind and continued, "The Heaven Realm has been invaded by the Dark Palace and they have their eyes on the Earth domain, so I came to the Earth domain." She paused and suddenly took 2 quick steps forward as she raised her hand and pressed on Old Lai's shoulder. "The Earth domain has already become like this, I don't believe you don't know." Old Lai stopped and turned around. He tilted his head and looked at the hand on his shoulder. His voice was flat and cold. "Yes, I know about the current situation in the land. If you know, why didn't you make a move?" Yi Qing Luo didn't know if she was blaming or questioning. From the moment she stepped into the underworld palace, she knew that the underworld palace did not plan to participate in the dispute between the two realms. The war could not affect them. They also didn't want to influence the war. In the current situation in the land, this was a strange existence. Lao Lai walked forward again. As he walked, his voice was very calm and indifferent. Why? I just don't want to pay attention to this kind of boring fight. To you, the bigger the scene, the more exciting it is, isn't it? Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she caught the loophole in old Lai's words. Lao Lai turned to look at her. Even if you know, don't say it out loud. It's not easy for me to find a decent excuse. Yiqing Luo laughed. You're still the same as before, you haven't changed at all. However, you've changed. Lao Lai looked her up and down. Compared to the last time I saw you, you are even more beautiful. This wasn't a compliment. But Yiqing Luo's temperament was totally different. As though she had been reborn. She gave off a confident and ostentatious feeling. This kind of ostentatious feeling wasn't repulsive. This book came from. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.